Hello everyone and welcome back to Nate the Hoof Guy. It's been a very busy couple weeks here in western Wisconsin, and because of that, I haven't had time to get a lot of videos done, which you've probably noticed. However, today's video, what I'm going to do is take you through some of the things I've found the last couple weeks. Usually I focus on one cow, one problem. This one, we're going to deal with a cow that's got some fowl. I'm going to show you her. I'm going to show you a cow that had digital dermatitis that I worked on about a month ago. I'm going to show you what that looks like after treatment, and I'm going to show you one of the craziest things that I've seen while hoof trimming over the years, and I'm going to show you a cow with a hole in her foot, all on this video. First on the docket is our cow with fowl, also known as foot rot. This condition is caused by the same bacteria that causes thrush in horses, and that's Fusobacterium necrophorum. Once we get this foot trimmed up, we'll take a look at it. It's actually in between the toes on this cow. We'll get this foot trimmed up and I'll show you exactly what that looks like. Fusobacterium necrophorum is an anaerobe, which means it thrives in areas with very poor oxygen levels. And guess what? In between the toes of a cow is a perfect place for that to take hold. But it needs a means of entry. On this particular cow, that happened to be a little bit of digital dermatitis that started ahead of time. That allowed that bacteria, which is present in the environment and the soil, to penetrate that foot and cause this infection. She actually had infection not only on this foot, but she also had a little bit on that other foot, which you can see here. This I treat with salicylic acid, and it usually takes care of that in one treatment. Now let's take a look at a case of digital dermatitis. I get questions a lot. Why not just cut that off ahead of time? And this is why. This is a foot that I treated about a month ago with my copper sulfate paste, and you can see after that treatment that it dries that lesion up and it just harmlessly peels off. No excessive bleeding, no risk of that previous case happening, getting that bacteria means of entry by cutting a big hole there. So just get that treated. Now we're going to spray this out. We'll take a look at it and see what it looks like. Now I didn't happen to take a picture of this lesion ahead of time, but it probably looked very similar to this one. After a treatment, dries that lesion up, harmlessly peels away, and now this is what you get. Now let's get this area trimmed around a little bit better, get this cleaned up, we'll get this dried off, and you'll be able to see how much of this is actually healed and if there's any active lesions still left here. So here you can get a better look. It's done a pretty good job cleaning this up. There's still a little bit of active area in that cleft, so I'm going to give this one more treatment, and she should be good to go. Now let's move on to one of the strangest things that I've seen in my years of trimming. As a hoof trimmer, you come in contact with a lot of cows. Throughout my career, probably close to 200,000 head. This particular cow has got a growth on her knee. Now, this is pretty rare, but in a lot of cows, I've seen one case like this, but it reminded me an awful lot of a cow that I saw about 5 or 6 years ago that had an enormous growth that started out somewhat like this and got out of control. This was on her right rear foot. You can see it grew between her dew claw and her hoof, and her foot rather. And this was a type of, it started out like that first one and it continued to grow. Vets did not want to remove it, thought it would cause too much problem. So what I actually had to do was, because it got this large, we couldn't really do anything with it. So what I had to do was fashion blocks, 1-inch thick blocks that I glued to both claws, and that allowed relief from that growth from touching the ground. It's one of those cases where there's not a lot you can do, and only thing I could do really was try to make her more comfortable. And like I said, the vets didn't want to remove it, thought it would be too dangerous for her, so she kind of had to deal with it. Now, our last case is a cow with an apparent hole in her foot. Now, when we see that, there's really only one of three different things that cause that. Number one, something got caught in there and created that hole, whether it be a stone or any other type of debris that can get wedged in there that can actually create the hole. The other reason could be a lesion that was worked on that did not heal. If it didn't heal, there's still going to be a hole there. There will be a lesion at the bottom of that hole. The third thing can be is if there was a lesion there, we trimmed that away and the lesion healed, but the hole remains. Now, the hoof is made from keratin. Keratin does not repair itself. It can only be replaced, more or less. So what does that mean? That means just like if we were to cut our hair, it doesn't regrow from the cut point. It can only grow from the roots, right? Grows out from there. Same with our fingernails. If we were to cut a notch in that fingernail, it would remain there and it would continue to grow out with that notch in there. It wouldn't repair that damaged area. Same thing is true with hoof. So when we cut holes in the hoof, that hole is going to remain there until the layers underneath grow out and that hole itself either wears off or we trim it away or it sheds naturally. That's why when you see me work, I try to avoid digging any large holes in the foot because they remain there for long periods of time. This particular case we're looking at right now is a white line lesion that I'd worked on quite a while ago. You can see that hole still remains, even though we're to the point where this cow is in for her next maintenance trim, that hole still remains. And it's going to continue to remain there until that area grows all the way out. Here you can see what that spot looks like. She obviously had a rock or something stuck in there, caused a little bit of hemorrhaging, but after a good trim, she's no worse for the wear. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this type of video, and we will see you all on the next one.